What's up, class? Welcome to Mr. Boyette Science Basics, Lesson 2. So we're going to be talking about how plants make their food through the process called photosynthesis today. So let us go ahead and take a look. All right, so I mentioned this in my previous video a little bit, and that is what a chloroplast is. So chloroplasts are these unique organelles within a plant cell that facilitate photosynthesis. So chloroplasts contain this green pigment called chlorophyll, which gives plants their green coloration and helps to kind of facilitate that process of photosynthesis. All right, so what is photosynthesis? So photosynthesis is a chemical process by which plants make their own energy. So humans, to make our energy, we digest food. Our bodies break that food down into nutrients, which are then used by our cells. Plants don't have mouths. They don't have a digestive system, most plants. Some are carnivorous, but they still don't have digestive systems. We'll talk about that in a bit. But most plants use this process of photosynthesis to create their own food. So to do this, they need three things. They need water, carbon dioxide, which is called CO2, and sunlight. So what this does is this process creates sugar in the form of glucose, which is then used by the plant to perform its functions and also to replicate its cells, grow, etc. And it creates two byproducts, oxygen and water. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the formula for photosynthesis. So the formula for photosynthesis, it looks like a lot, but basically it breaks down like this. 6 CO2 is just carbon dioxide. It's what we breathe out as human beings and as animals. Plus H2O, which is water, needs 12 molecules of that, and plus sunlight. So some plants can substitute sunlight for, regular light or whatever, but in most cases, plants need sunlight to survive. So some plants just don't do well inside. If you ever had a house plant that was meant to be outside and it's dying, it's probably because it needs the real thing. So what that produces is it produces glucose, which is, in its chemical formula, is carbon 6, hydrogen 12, oxygen 6, okay? So that's glucose. And then, interestingly enough, it also creates two byproducts, oxygen and water. So some of you may be thinking, well, how does it produce water? That doesn't make sense. Well, just like when we burn energy, right? Sometimes we sweat. That's a process called cellular respiration and perspiration. So just like we have that, plants also have that too. Excess water is used and it exits the plant most of the time microscopically. Okay, so we can't see it, but it's released from the plant. And oxygen. So again, can't see oxygen, but it is released into the atmosphere from plants. The most clear view you can actually get of plants and trees releasing H2O is actually in a, you can see it in the rainforest. So if you ever take a time lapse of the rainforest over a couple days, you'll see that actually a lot of water goes up into the atmosphere from the rainforest. So because of that, consequently, it rains a lot. And when that happens, of course, it's just a cycle. And that's explained in the water cycle, which we'll talk about in a different lesson. Okay, so a couple things you need to know for the GED as far as photosynthesis, because they probably will ask you a question regarding photosynthesis. So the first thing you need to know is the role of the chloroplast and the role that it plays in photosynthesis. So you need to know that it facilitates photosynthesis and that it is unique to plant cells. You also need to be familiar with the formula for photosynthesis, what a plant needs for it, and what it creates. So remember, plant needs three things, sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide. And a plant gives off water, oxygen, and creates glucose. So that's what you need to know for that. And you also need to know, in general, why photosynthesis is important for the ecosystem and the environment. All right, so going off on that, we're going to go ahead and talk about that a little bit because I think it's important not only for the GD, but in general. So plants have the vital role of filtering out excess CO2 from our atmosphere and replacing it with oxygen, which animals, including us, need to breathe to survive. Okay, so carbon dioxide, or CO2, is a major contributor to global warming and climate change, which is having a devastating effect on our environment. So plants actually take excess CO2 out of the atmosphere and turn it into oxygen, which we need and we require. So that's actually a great thing. And one of the contributors to why, we're having this global warming discussion and why it's such an immediate threat is because as we become more developed, trees are being cut down and not being replaced, and more CO2 is going into the atmosphere from various different sources, factories, cars, burning of fuel, the animal industry, the meat industry, things like that. So they're all playing a big role, and they're all becoming too big, and that is not being replaced. So there's a couple of things that there's a couple of links that I'm going to show you that how you can kind of inform yourself on more. So what we can all do to help stop climate change and environmental destruction. So limit your use of disposable plastics is a big one. So disposable plastics cannot generally be recycled and end up in landfills or eventually the ocean, where it harms wildlife. You can also eat less meat or eat organic meat. So this helps as well, because the meat industry is a big contributor to the rising levels of carbon dioxide in our air. Eating less meat or eating organic will force the meat industry to evolve and scale down its operations. You can support political candidates who want to take on climate change. So supporting these candidates will ensure that steps will be taken to protect our environment from the devastating effects of climate change. So I have a couple of links that I can show you later on. And then, but really the best way to combat this is just stay informed on the facts. So there are many things you can do as an individual to help the environment that I'm not, mentioning here, but the best way is to stay informed on what's going on in the world and support efforts to protect our future and the future of our planet for many generations to come. So if you don't know where to look, there's some helpful links right here. So I have these links right here, and I'm pretty sure you can't access them in the video, but I'll go ahead and, if I can, I'll link them in the comments. So yeah, I'll go ahead and do that, but let's go ahead and click on a few of them and check this out real quick. Okay, it's not going to work right now, but you know what I'll do? I'll go ahead and link those in the comments, and we can go ahead and discuss those. If you have future questions or further questions on that, we can go ahead and discuss that in the next video. Okay, that's it for now. I'll talk to you guys next time.